There's a price to be paid for breaking Yahweh's law. The ingenuity of man is just unbelievable. What we can do, we can print 15 King James Bibles in an area of 1 square millimeter. That's almost unbelievable. But we can do that. There's all kinds of things we can do. But we cannot seem to solve our political, our personal, our global problems. Because every time we do something, it seems like it creates 5 more problems. And so we chase that problem with another set of laws and bills that Congress can pass. And that creates some more problems, so we chase those with some more, quote, solutions. And it's an endless circle of chasing one crisis after another. It's not working. The apostolic core of, quote, Christianity is the fastest growing religious movement on the face of the earth. It's not Islam, it's not Roman Catholicism, and it's not standard Protestantism. It's a fact. We reported that in the last Insight. But parallel with that rapid growth of a religion, and many religions, parallel with that have come unparalleled problems facing the human race. It's not working. The religious solutions are not working. There's a reason for that, because they never tell you how to change your behavior according to Yahweh's law. Now, they have a set of mores, a set of do's and don'ts. Every religion has that. But if it's not the true religion, if it's not the true laws of Yahweh, you're just compounding the problem. You're just waiting for another crisis to hit so you can get up and talk positive about that one. So we need to be realistic about the state of the world as it really is. And that's what Yahweh's kingdom is going to solve. He's going to solve all those problems, but it's not going to come easy. The Battle of Armageddon is yet ahead of us. There's lots of things to happen. The temple must be rebuilt. There's lots of things in the offing there before Yahshua's going to return. Sometimes I wish I could just push a button, fast forward past all this, past the beast, past the 10 horns, past the false prophet, past the lake of fire, on into the kingdom of Yahweh, and just do it right now. I'm ready. I think most of us are. Why not right now? Because Yahweh has a system of cycles in place. He has a plan. He will not waver from it. You can't renegotiate his cycles. Once you're in a 490-year cycle, you're locked into that cycle. If you're in a 280-year cycle of punishment, you're locked into that punishment. You can't renegotiate those rules. And this theory that there are these cycles that Yahweh set up that sets the things as they happen explains some things in the Bible that to me are inexplicable otherwise. I'll give you an example here. There was a guy who served as king for 40 years. He was as wicked as they come. But he survived 40 years. Somebody else who served Yahweh survived maybe 8-10 years, and he died. How do you explain that? A guy that's wicked beyond belief lasts for 40 years, and a guy that tries to do Yahweh's will lasts for 10 or 15. Where's the justice in this? An explanation is that the guy in the 40 years of serving who was wicked was in a cycle which could not be overturned. Yahweh won't renegotiate it. And the guy that's there for maybe 10, 15 years was in a cycle that was just ending. So you can explain a lot of different things in the Bible if you understand Yahweh's program on a grander scale, which we never look at that. And there's lots of things we never look at in religion today. There are curses and blessings. There's a way that seems right to man, but then there is a way of death, it says. And we have to know what the way of righteousness is to be able to survive. This is a contest for survival. The human race is weighed in the balances. We're pushing toward the brink. I know that sounds fatalistic, but it's true. And if Yahshua doesn't come, if Yahweh didn't send Yahshua at the right time, which he will, nobody knows when, we're not going to make it. Turn to Matthew 24. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Think about this, worse than the flood. About 5,000 years ago today, the earth just finished 40 days and 40 nights of raining. And in 2 short days, the ark would come to rest during the Feast of Tabernacles on the 17th day of the 7th month. I think the indication certainly is that the land Sabbath was about to start near the end of the year, and the 6th year was ending, and so the rest was beginning. The ark came to rest on Mount Ararat, the mountains of Ararat, in the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles. Well, what caused all that problem? All the inundation of tsunamis and fractures and earthquakes and the spewing of water forth that covered the earth, probably 30,000 feet in the air because the highest mountains were covered. Just imagine you see an airplane go by, jet plane, that's about 30 to 35,000 feet. The wall of water above you at the height of the flood was that high. The ark was floating up there about 30,000 feet in the air on the top of the water there. It gives you some idea of the unbelievable hydrodynamic forces that were at work there. So just imagine the ark so small you couldn't even see it up there probably. You might be able to see it. Bobbling up there on the surface of the ocean of water 30,000 feet above your head. And we're now here walking on the bottom of that ocean of air. That's what happened to the world roughly 5,000 years ago. And it says here, a great tribulation will come, worse than anything that's ever happened up to that time. Worse than the flood. It's worse than Sodom and Gomorrah, which is a fairly localized catastrophe. There was certainly a catastrophe to the people that were receiving the brunt of that. Worse than that. That's what he says is coming. Now, this is a prophet. This is Yahweh. He knows what he's talking about. So he goes on to say, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. No. Man is pushing himself to the brink. What's the hope? Is there hope? He goes on to say, but for the elect's sake, if there were no elect at that time, the earth would be totally destroyed, all flesh would be extinct, and it'd all be over. All be over. An experiment that failed. The aspirations and the work and the struggles of the great and near great for generations would come to naught, amount to nothing. The great cathedrals that have been built, Solomon's temple, all the efforts in science, all the moon probes, all the Curiosity landings on Mars would amount to nothing. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened so that somebody will survive. Now the elect includes David, Paul, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, hopefully Solomon, because Joshua made promises to those people. He had to fulfill those promises for David to have a throne to sit on in the kingdom of Yahweh. Now, if he lets every last person die on the face of the earth, then he cannot fulfill that promise to David or to Abraham or to Isaac. So it's those elect as well as those living at the time. For their sake, he will cut it short so that David can have a man sitting on his throne. So that there will be a throne where Yahshua will come and sit. For their sake and for ours, he will cut those days short. That's how bad it's going to be. Sometimes you hate to think about these things, but reality is reality. As I said yesterday in talking about the false spirits, there's no point in whitewashing all this, because reality is what we have to live with. The truth is what we have to face sooner or later about ourselves, about the world we live in. We have to make the decisions that are best for us and our family. What are those decisions? Where are you going to get the answers to that question? The answers are in that law. Yahweh says, he that rejects hearing the law, refuses to hear the law, says even his prayer will be an abomination to me and I won't hear it. So that's reality. And that's why we want to pray for the kingdom of Yahweh to come. We certainly want to hope to be worthy, as he says, to stand at that time. And so to do that, we have to line ourselves up with Yahweh's law. Now, there's not going to be a restoration work that does not talk about the law. Fundamentally, basically at the core of everything it does is a restoration of Yahweh's law.